Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to our session on Parenting Unplugged. Sex education at home, how parents can start the conversation without fear. My name is Aisha Fashikwa Adebowale. I'm a volunteer for Udo Foundation, and today I want to start by acknowledging something essential. If you feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach or a rush of discomfort just by hearing the title, you are absolutely in the right place. Talking to our children about sex shouldn't be a thing of discomfort. We worry about saying the wrong thing, saying it too soon, or not knowing the answer to their challenging question. But here's the simple truth we are embracing today. These conversations aren't optional, they are foundational. Today, joining me would be Mariam Sulaiman, a co-founder of Psychnovation, and Pelumi Mutiat, an educator. Please join me and welcome our guests. Good afternoon, Mariam.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. So, Mariam Sulaiman is a first class graduate of psychology, a young leader, a co founder of Psychnovation, an initiative transforming our psychology and technology intersect in education and community development. As the Secretary General of LASUMON and a key figure in multiple student led innovations, she is known for her sharp communication skills, passion for reforming tertiary education, and drive to empower youth through interdisciplinary learning. Beyond her leadership role, Miriam is a writer, brand strategist, and a Muslimah committed to creating purpose driven impact, whether through storytelling, advocacy, or organizing large scale programs like Cyclovation Research and Tech programs and the Mental Health Convention. Please, a round of applause for Miriam.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next speaker, Mutiat Oluwapelumi Lawal. Okay, she's not in yet. Okay, let's start. Miriam, thank you for having us today.
I'm glad to be here. You're welcome.
Okay. So, Miriam, when do you think is the right time to start talking to our kids about sex? Is there a too early or a too late?
Okay, so because of my background in psychology, please, I want to confirm if you can hear me clearly first before I start.
Sure, I can hear you.
Thank you. Because of my background in psychology, I am going to be going through the developmental stages of children in order to explain whether what can be determined as too late and what can be determined as too early. So, in children, there are several stages of development. There are several stages of cognitive and emotional development as seen by Piaget, which means that children have different stages of time where they can assess or where they can understand certain concepts. So there can be a too late period and there can be an early period. What really matters is how sex is introduced to these children. So I'm going to start with the earliest stage of development, which is the pre-operational stage. So in the pre-operational stage, children are already inquisitive. They try to understand things. They're already learning, and they can understand concepts as it is introduced to them. So the pre-operational stage is where parents should try to teach students to teach their children about the basic things in their body. So this is where you try to let the child to be self-aware. You tell the child that this is what this part is. For example, you let them to know that this is your penis, this is your vagina, and these are things that you can do without being too rigorous. So what I'm saying is that this stage where you just let the child understand the basic things that have to do with their private parts. That's in the pre-operational stage. And in the pre-operational stage consists of children from 2 years to 6 years of age. After the pre-operational stage, children start to move into the concrete operational stage. So in the concrete operational stage, that's from 7 to 11 years old, children start to understand things a little better. They start to understand functions, and because they are now in school, they are talking to a lot of their their peers, their teachers in school, they begin to understand the function of these things. And it is at this stage where parents would now try to now explain the deeper intricacies of what this means. This is what your penis can do aside from just peeing. This is what your vagina can do aside from just using it to pee. And this is why it is considered a private area and not something that should be seen or touched by other people. Now, in the former operational stage, children have already got into adolescent age. They're already in their puberty stage. So they understand things. Their body is already changing. They understand that these organs or this part of our body that we just use for just normal excretion has more functions than what it is. And now they can understand things that in abstraction. So they can understand what it means to form bonds with people through sex. They can understand things like um, getting pregnant. They can understand things like STDs. So it's not about when, it's about how. How should we introduce sex to our children in their several developmental stages, and this would help the child to understand things. So it's we are not throwing all the information to them as a whole. You cannot bring a 2-year-old child and then start to explain to the child and say, oh, this is your vagina, use it to give birth, use it to have sex. No. But at that stage, you let that child be aware of what a vagina is. Then when they progress more, you now explain to them that, oh, your vagina can do other functions, and this is why it should not be touched or seen by other people. Thank you so much.
Okay, so our second speaker is right here. Let's welcome in Pelumi, Oluwapelumi Mutiat Lawal. Good afternoon, Pelumi. Okay, I think she's having issues. Okay, so pending the time we Pelumi, can you please unmute your mic? Okay, good afternoon, Pelumi. Mutiat Oluwapelumi Lawal is a private investigator with one of the leading private security companies in Nigeria. She has handled and spoken at various seminars on cases relating to crime and gender relations. Her love for youth and education had also led her to volunteering with different institutes, including teens, where she is learning and impacting life. She is currently doing a master's of science in sociology, specializing in criminology. Let's give a round of applause for Oluwapelumi. So, Pelumi, thank you for joining us today. So, Miriam already started, so why don't we just continue? Why is it important for sex education to begin at home rather than at school? Hello? Pelumi, are you with us? Okay. Miriam, can you please help us answer that? I think we lost her already.
Okay, if I heard correctly, you are asking why sex education is more important to be introduced at home than in school. Is
Why
that
is it
correct?
important? Why is it important to begin rather at home than school?
Okay. So let me first start by saying that the home is the first connection that a child has with any other person in the society. And basically, looking at the attachment principles, we see that how parents introduce things to their children affect their style of attachment. So, for example, a child, when born, is more familiar with members of his own family than members outside the family. So it is actually more suitable and convenient that the parents that he is familiar with introduce certain topics like this to him. For example, a child is already safe with his mother, he's already used to his mother seeing his private part, seeing him naked. Probably when he's trying to excrete or when he's trying to use the toilet, his parents help him, his sisters help him, his siblings help him. Now, it is quite important that the people in that home are the ones that also introduce the principle of boundaries to that child. So let's say, for example, I'm already used as a 3-year-old boy, as a 3-year-old girl. I'm already used to adults helping me when I use the toilet. That 3-year-old boy should also be explained to that. while we help you at home, it's not necessary or it's not normal that every other person should have access to what we help you do at home. And you should understand boundaries. And also, the way parents introduce topics to their children would also determine how children conceptualize these topics. For example, something as mundane as maybe drinking cold water can either make a child safe or can make them feel happy depending on how it is introduced by the parent. So let's say for example, a parent introduces cold water to children and say, if you drink cold water, you will die, you have kata, you have a lot of things. They are introducing it like in a very scary way to this child. And even though cold water may have its own effects, it's not as dangerous or as bad as it's introduced to that child. But when parents introduce sex to their children gently, it helps children conceptualize it and understand that it's a normal part of life and not something that is seen as something that should be scary or something that should be seen as something that is so foreign and so mundane. But then when teachers introduce this thing to children, after it has been introduced by their parents, it is easier for these children to understand and conceptualize than not see it as something that is a taboo or something that is a barrier. If sex is not talked about in home, it's not introduced to children at home, it will quite be hard. It will feel like mundane. It will feel like something that it is not natural when it is being introduced by the teacher. And don't forget that while sex is an integral part of our life, it's also something that should be treated privately. When children conceptualize the idea of sex as a private issue, it's easier for them to understand it publicly. But then when sitting in a class of children and then you are explaining penis and vagina, and then that's the first time that a child is hearing it, it might be really hard for them to conceptualize. Because don't forget that most children would rather believe what their mommy says or their daddy says over what an outsider would say. So we need to really focus on introducing it to them as mommy and daddy first before an outsider introduces it to them. So that even when the teacher is telling them things that might not be true or might not align with what their parents tell them, they can easily say, no, my mom didn't tell me this, my mom didn't tell me to do this. But then if a mother or a parent is not introducing sex to their child properly, they might learn it in different ways. And those ways might be negative.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was going to ask a question, but you already brushed through it because my next question was going to be, what are some early signs that a child is ready for age appropriate discussion about
Okay,
bodies and boundaries?
all right. The first sign that a child is ready to be introduced to the world of sex and sexual organs is basically curiosity. Every child is born with curiosity in this world, and curiosity doesn't just start from asking. And that's the mistake that most parents make. They think that, oh, when a child asks that, mom, why do I have a penis? That's the first time that they are aware of their penis. So, in the principle of psychoanalysis by Freud, there is something that is called child masturbation. And child masturbation is not masturbation in the sense that they are doing it to find pleasure. It's just in the sense that they are aware of that sex organ and they are trying to understand what it means. So normally you would see a child as young as 1 years old already touching their penis, already touching their vagina, and it is something that they will do obsessively for a long time. They can be walking and they'll just touch it. And the mistake that parents do most times when they just shout at them like, don't touch it, don't touch it like that. And then the child that you are shouting at the child that does not even understand what a penis does not even understand why we are asking him not to touch it. It's that those stages that we now try to explain to these children that, okay, this is what a penis does and this is what a vagina does. And don't forget that children really, really pick up words from adults. We might think that we are being discreet as adults, but we are not. The littlest things that adults say, children pick them up and they will go amongst their peers and talk about those things. So imagine that at age 4, you have not introduced sex to your child at all. Your child does not understand the sexual organs, does not understand why he has it. He's not even aware of the functions of his sex organs. And then he goes to school and then he hears a classmate that says something like, oh, I want to touch this girl's vagina. And then other people acting like shocked, like, oh, why did you say that? And then he's confused because why are you saying we should not touch each other's vagina? My mom touches mine at home when I sleep. My sister touches mine at home when I pee. And then they now become confused. They don't understand why these things are happening. So it is at these stages when children ask questions that we need to start introducing these things to them. Another thing I want to say is because of how sex is seen in cultural perspectives like the African culture and in religious perspectives, we tend to over exaggerate when children ask about sex. So don't forget that when a 4 year old or a 5 year old is asking sex specific questions, they are not asking because they are interested in sexual acts. They're asking because they are genuinely curious about what's going on in their bodies. Why is Emeka's penis different from Amaka's vagina? They want to know. It's not because they feel any carnal pleasure. It is your job as parents to gently introduce and explain it to them. But then when a child comes to you and says, Mom, why can't I touch Amaka's vagina? And the first thing you're doing is slapping that child or shouting at that child, you are already introducing sex as something that is a taboo to them. And this is something that goes directly to parents. Understand that when you are introducing sexuality and sexual organs to your children, you're not asking them, you're not teaching them how to have sex. You're teaching them how to be aware of their own sexual organs. That's the first thing that parents need to know. You are teaching them self-awareness firstly, not how to have sex. When we debunk this idea from our heads, it is more easier for us to now talk to these children and introduce sex to them as a concept.
Okay, that's very nice. So now let's move to the parents. Why do you think parents fear talking about sex with their children? Where does that fear stem from?
Okay, so this goes back to my last point. It's basically orientation. There are so many things that shape how a person feels or talks about sex, and one of them is how they've been orientated into the topic itself. For people like us that were born by parents in older generations, most of us didn't even have the sex talk at all. We just grew up one day and they started telling us not to have sex or else we'll get pregnant. Started slapping us when we talk to boys. Started hitting us when we talk about kissing. There was not really that talk of sit down, let me explain your body to you, and let me explain his body to you, and let me tell you why you can't do these things at a certain age. There was no soft launching into these topics. It was basically don't do this and don't do that. So we already had this idea that even talking about sex at all is a taboo and then everything should be kept. While sex is a private thing, we should also know that there are certain nuances and there are certain aspects of sex that need to be discussed, especially when we are introducing it to children. And as parents, it's still something that we need to debunk. We need to debunk this idea that if we talk to our children about sex, we are somehow spoiling their lives or we are somehow encouraging them. Let your child be aware of his sexuality, of his sexual organs, and what he can do with them, while also letting them know the restrictions and the values that come with those sexual ideas. And the very first thing we need to do while debunking that myth is to understand that we are teaching them self-awareness first of all before teaching them sexuality at all. So that's going to help.
Oluwafemi, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. We've been losing connection with you since. So, I think my next question will go to Ms. Pelumi. How can parents overcome their own embarrassment or past experiences to have healthy sex conversation? We can't hear you, Pelumi. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you at all. I don't know. I think something's wrong with your speaker. Okay, like pending the time we await your response. Miriam, can you please answer that?
Could you please come again with the question?
How can parents overcome their own embarrassment or past experience to have healthy conversations?
Okay, so I really do not like the fact that I am delving too much into psychology, because I really want to bring it down to the normal level where everybody can understand what I'm saying. But then one of the main things, and then I'm not talking about just sex, I am talking about experiences in general. One of the best ways to overcome those experiences is to face them. So most times when we go through experiences that are less pleasant, for lack of a better word, when we go through experiences that are unpleasant, we tend to bury and repress those memories. And whenever topics or new experiences resurface that are similar to those, we tend to shy back because we are scared. We don't want to we don't want to talk about them, we don't want to introduce them. But then as parents, we need to understand that the fact that we have children means that we have the responsibility of impacting knowledge in them. For most women that have gone through I'm sorry. For most women that have gone through sexual molestation, that have gone through rape, or that have been introduced to sex in very unpleasant ways, they try to repress those ideas because of how society talks about it, because of the taboo surrounding it, and because of basically all like the cultural and religious practices surrounding delicate topics like that. But then we have to understand that because we are parents, we have the responsibility to create safe spaces for our children. And to create safe spaces for our children, we have to first of all create safe spaces for ourselves. So the very first thing that we need to do is address those issues. Understand that these issues were not as a result of us being bad or us being, because most of these repressed memories comes from also guilt. People find a way to blame themselves for whatever experiences they have had. We need to understand that this is not because of us. It was not our fault in any way. And because of that, we need to learn to heal from those things and now use that to impact positive knowledge into our children. So if you're somebody that is like a survivor of rape or a survivor of sexual molestation, you need to first take the time to understand that it was not your fault and you were a victim, a survivor of this issue. And then when introducing it to your child, always make sure that you let them to know that they are you're always a safe space for them to come to, and then always talk about like their fears, their experiences with sex and all sexual experiences. Thank you so much.
Hello. Okay, so Pelumi, are you with us, please?
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Okay, so the question was,
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add to the point she has made earlier. We parents need to understand that whatever it is that they've gone through, it's not as a result of their fault. They need to like embrace it first. If you understand the reason why this and this happened while I was in certain age, you have to make correction in your mind, in your head, and understand why that certain thing happened before you can even address it. I am going to talk more from a sociological part. She's talking from a psychological part. Family as the first agent of socialization. Um, everybody has one of those things like they've gone through while growing up. Right? Can you hear me?
Ah, last one.
Oh, so I don't know. My co-speaker, can you hear me? Yeah. So we need to parents need to understand that things that have gone through and the life is evolving, things are changing. The way things are when they were and how they do things is well different from how we do things now. So we need we need to understand that the generation of children that we have now compared to the generation of children that they had then and things they had access to then. Okay.
We are with you. We are with you, Palumi.
Okay.
We are with
We
you,
should understand
Palumi.
that the way our parents needs to understand that the way they grew up, setting at
I think we're experiencing network issue. Let's see if we can have our. Okay. While Pelumi is away, Mariam, please. How do you recommend balancing honesty with age-appropriate information?
Okay, so there's a certain trend because as generations evolve, certain things evolve. And in the newer generation, like Gen Z downwards, we promote a lot of honesty when it comes to sex because of we understand that if you introduce sex to children in very dishonest ways or you try to like coddle some words, it makes children misunderstand a lot of things. So, for example, if you're introducing sex to a child or sexual organs or sexuality, you need to use the proper words first of all. So, do not tell your son that his penis is like the words that we use. We can say it's a kokoro or it's a kokoyo or something like that. Not tell a child that a vagina is the way we try to use some words like, oh, your vagina is cookie, your penis is something, and then those are not the actual words. We need to stop doing that. We need to let this child understand that these are the proper words for this. It lets the child to be aware, to understand the functions of our sexual organs or his sexual organs, and it also helps them to report in case of sexual molestation properly. So when a child is reporting that, oh, this adult so and so touched my penis, it understand it's easily able or it's easier for an adult to understand that, oh, somebody touched him appropriately. But let's say that a child that her vagina was cooking. And then she said, oh, this adult touched my cookie. If you were to hear that, she probably just say, oh, sorry, I'll get another cookie. But then in reality, she's saying that she has been molested, but we don't understand. But there is actually a bridge between being honest and being vulgar. So let's say, for example, you are introducing penis and vagina to the child. That's normal. That's not vulgar. But then when you start to go through lens of like now trying to explain sexual scenarios, trying to produce sex that is beyond a child age to them, then you are being vulgar. So while we promote a lot of honesty, promote saying facts and not using coddled words, we also promote that do not be too vulgar because children are very, very imaginative. You might think that, oh, their imagination is limited or maybe their curiosity is limited, but a child's brain has no limit. They can imagine if you present a picture or a scenario to them. And children are always about hear and do. So when they hear things, they're always eager to do it immediately. And to limit issues of doing improper things with like their friends, their peers, or their classmates, we also need to set certain boundaries. So those are the two nuances. Make sure to be honest and clear, but also make sure to not be vulgar when you are introducing sex and sexuality to your children.
Okay, so Pelumi, the question was, how do you recommend balancing honesty with age-appropriate information?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the mishap. So they have to be a boundary with you being honest and being vulgar, like she said. You have to, I think it depends on each child. A parent needs to understand their child, how they assimilate and how they interpret things for you to know how you have to place those words for to the child. So for a child that you know that the child is extremely curious, extremely wanting to know, they'll keep asking twisted questions and all of that. Or a child that you know that you can tell an A is for apple. Then tomorrow I said, Mommy, I found A is for apple, A is for this, A is for that, that had gone beyond. what you've taught the child. And I think you have to, like you said, there have to be a boundary between the two. You let your child know that this is having sex. These are the risks that come with it, without using words that can misinterpret those information. The way you have a conversation with an adult is way different from the way you have a conversation with your kid or with your child. It's two different things. When you're talking to someone that is above 14, I think it depends on how much they are growing for you to know how intense you can become honest with them. And you need to be very, very observant. If you have a child that is very, you have to create, there's this thing I call bonding with a child. You have to place your child in a certain level that there is nothing your child cannot tell you. You have to make your child very, very comfortable with you. Say, oh mommy, when I was coming back from school today, I carried a particular step and this will happen. Somebody said this person respond. You know, when you have that level of connection with your child and you always give them this years, be able to observe every petty thing the person does, the child does. But if you create, if you don't, if you create this kind of thing that is, oh mommy, welcome, what did you do today? Fine, school was okay. I think the child is really, know you know if your child is like comfortable having conversations with you. You have to learn to have in conversation, tell your story to your child. So when you have that kind of connection that your child sees you as your best, as their best friend, it's not the type that your child will tell you, ah, mommy, I did this today. And because it sits wrong with you, you're scolding her immediately, you're doing this to the child, he or she immediately. Like a kind of reaction that what they are feeling and that can hinder them back from talking to you. You find it very hard to like talk to them. And it will be so hard for you to set that boundary. Okay, I'll use myself as an example. I used to tell myself that I have two mommies. My own mommy, I said, mommy, I'm fine. It's now that I've grown up that it has changed. While growing up, I have my mom's friend that is really close. When you tell her things that don't go, she doesn't scold us immediately. And she will just come and just call you random and be like, you were teaching me about some certain things you do in school. There are a lot of risk. It's wrong. You get, she's just going to talk to me so sweetly and so in a language that I understand that will make me want to tell her the next thoughts I have in my head. I don't know if you like the next thought. So you have to
Yeah,
know the
I'm
kind of
following.
child you are, and you need to be careful of the words. Like I said, like she said, like my co-speaker said, boundaries, vulgar words. You have to be careful with the words that you pick, the words that you say, the words that you use with a 16 years old child is different from the word that we use with a 10-old child that has a rapid growth. We have to put in place. You would see a 10-year-old girl that started menstruation that has a full grown breast. Until she speaks, then you know she's a baby, like she's immature. So there's a kind of bond parents need to have with their children. We understand that the way we were brought up, it's not the way you have to bring the children of this generation up. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like everything has changed. They have to keep evolving. The area that they have, you cannot the area that they grow up, the children are growing, the area that is like somebody trying to give child a best life living in Ajegunle. And somebody that is wants to give that same education you want to give to a child living in Parkview. Like I don't know if you understand. If you don't have that conversation with your child living in Ajegunle, the child will hear different things, seeing different things in the area, like in the compared to a child that goes with school bus home, come back. Like it's safer. I would not say it's safer because we have internet, but things they learn on the internet, things they learn in the environment, things they learn in school. You cannot compare a child going to a public school with a child going to a private school. A child going to a public school is prone to having more people around with different ideologies, more ideologies about life, different backgrounds. With a child going to like small,
Mhm.
a private school with a small number of students. So we have parents needs to be cautious of their environment. So it is your surrounding, your environment, the kind of relationship you have with your child that will determine how you have to chip these things in into those children. Our parents will
Okay, so
always
it is
say, my mom would
important
always say,
for.
only if I had, okay, only if I had, my parents, say, only if I had this opportunity that you have with me, with my parents. And the other this generation has, they confront or say anything. It's different from the audacity we had when we were growing up. This generation of children are have been brought up in such a way that they are not very confident in everything they are doing, be it wrong or right. They are very confident, they are very outspoken, they are very expressive, even when they say things. So you need to understand those criteria before you are able to send a boundary. So the boundaries varies from this to that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pelumi. But before we move on to the next question, there is this trend of
Okay.
am my child's best friend. The point
Yeah,
is, I think parents are blurring the line between being best friends and being parents. What's your take
yeah,
on that?
yeah. Okay. I think we need my take on that is you can be your child's best friend and still be your child's parents. It's just like the example that I gave of you telling my child is gisting me. You know, they call it gisting. Ah, mom, let me gist you, telling me things. And my reaction at that moment has to be that of a best friend. After I'm able to get through that child's head and understand where the child stands, then the parenting comes in. But that parent has to go in such a way that it doesn't kills the best relationship that you have. Because if it kills the best friend relationship, it is so hard for you to get back into the mind of that child. So that's why you say, okay, my child wants this. Then parents need to understand that it is not everything your child wants that you have to give them all in the sake of I am best friend. They need to be a balance. There has to be a balance between you be. But I think there's the trend as like it has blurred a lot of things. That's both parenting for being best friends. That's why it tells say, oh, this guy is talking to me. Oh, just telling blah 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 blah. Mm-mm. You don't need to tell the child what to say. You are supposed to listen to how the child wants to respond. And that's when parenting now comes in. Then you parent the child. You need to understand the child's brain, facing at the perception about that thing. Okay, how would you react? It's just like my child telling me, oh, this is one of my classmates sent me a letter. It has been going on. They say Valentine, crush, prom, and this that they do nowadays. He's a prom, I like him, and he has to be my prom, blah, 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 blah. I think this social event, I am not debunking the social event, it is good. But these social activities, it's already blurring a lot of parenting stuff that is meant to come in with like parents and mother kind of thing. It's a good thing, but we need to be very, very careful. They need to set out parenting and best friending. It's two different things that can go hand in hand, but you have to be very, very careful. You have to be very, very careful because it is really necessary for you to be your child's best friend, but it is more necessary to parent your child. So yeah, that's my take.
Parents in the
It's my
house,
take
take
is
notes.
it's not a bad thing, but you have to yeah, you have to be very, very careful.
So, parents, let's not blur the line between parenting and friendship. You are your child's parents, so please do your job.
Yeah, it's two different
So,
things.
my next question, Miriam,
Yeah.
are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So, how can parents teach their child values about sex and relationship without scaring or shaming them?
Okay, so I think that a mistake that parents make a lot when they are trying to when they are trying to show like the importance of something is they tend to over exaggerate. So let's say for example, if you are born into like a highly religious home, or like a house that is very big on cultural perspectives, and they are trying to explain sex, you can explain like the nuances of this and explain the consequences of it without necessarily trying to demonize it. So let me explain. So let's say, for example, the concept of masturbation. So masturbation can come naturally for some people, because when children try to explore their own sex organs on their own, they might some they might just be touching, feeling everywhere, and they say that it gives them pleasure. Now, as a parent, let's say for example, this child is already born into a house that is not sex secure. Sex secure meaning that sex is not a topic that is easily discussed and is always treated as something alien and foreign and taboo. This child is already exploring and learning about their own sexuality on their own. There was really nobody to teach them. Now, let's say, for example, a child is caught masturbating by the parents. So now it is the duty of that parent to explain the sex organs and then explain like the nuances of masturbation to them. Now, this is not like from a cultural or a religious perspective. Let me just look at it from like a strictly academic and scientific perspective. There are certain doctors that will explain that masturbation is healthy and should be done by parents. However, should be done by people. However, they usually give guidelines. Let's say, for example, masturbation should be done within this frame and this frame of time, and this can be the consequences of masturbation. And one of those consequences is social isolation. So if a person masturbates too much, they tend to isolate themselves from society and then just spend all day masturbating. It could become an addiction. It could affect their day-to-day life, that's their work, their school. Now, this is you explaining to a child the consequences of what this could do to them and their life in general. Now, for parents, sometimes because they want to emphasize the negative consequences of this masturbation, they can come and tell you that it's the devil's work, and if you're masturbating, the devil is the one that you're having sex with. To be honest, when I was in secondary school, there was literally this outreach program where a group of people came to our school and told us that if you're masturbating, you're having sex with the devil. Get up. Like they literally started quoting so many verses. They're telling us that the devil is the one that you're having sex with. And then and then if you masturbate, you are already I am talking to the demons. You just start acting like a demon, and then you just see that one day you would wake up, and then so many things start possessing you because you masturbated. And then it was like it felt so foreign because like what exactly are you talking about? How did touching your own private organs turn into you talking to a demon and becoming possessed? So I think that this is also in honesty. Let child know the actual consequences of whatever they are doing. Do not try to over demonize and do not try to downplay it. So there is always a boundary and there's always like a
Yeah.
system to it. If those people had come to us that day and explained truly to us what masturbation could do, masturbation could affect your academics, it could affect your sex life, it could even affect your work life, you could become isolated. Now, these are the actual consequences of masturbation that people need to know so that by the time they grow into their own sexuality, you understand that these are things that we need to put boundaries to. And then if you're explaining it in terms of religious perspective, also explain the things that are in religion. Do not try to overemphasize. Now, bringing in demons and bringing in possession will just make that child believe that, okay, ever since I've been masturbating, nobody has ever possessed him. And then they'll just continue doing that. So if you do not introduce things to children in the right way, they're going to learn it from other people in the wrong way. So let's say that they are now actually learn from a doctor that, oh, masturbation is actually good, but then you can do it this way. See, they don't even care about the boundaries anymore. The fact that they've heard it is actually good. After another person knows that they'll be possessed by a demon, they'll just continue doing it. And then it could lead to addiction and so many negative consequences. So while we are introducing to children, let us be truthful. Let us explain it to them, and let us explain why. Okay, masturbation is not good because of this and this and this and this. Do not try to overemphasize or say, oh, if you have sex today, you not get married in future. And then just try to start demonizing and then making everything a taboo. Not everything about sex is a taboo. Children would naturally
Yeah.
want to explore and they will naturally want to experience things. What you should do is to guide that experience and exploration. Do not try to demonize it. Demonizing it will only prompt them to even want to do more. That okay, shebi I've said that I'll be possessed by a demon. Let the demon come, let me see now. And they'll continue doing it. So we need to be very, very careful in the way we explain sex to children in our bid to cushion the values and then make them do it appropriately. Let us not be lying to them. Children can tell when parents lie. They can tell when parents over exaggerate. And then when they lie to them, they feel the need to now challenge them and say, okay, that's that you now say will happen. That's what me and I even want to do. So let us be very, very truthful. Let us always make sure that we are within the boundaries.
Thank you. Palumi, are you still with
Ma,
us? Can you hear me?
yeah.
So can you give us your opinion
Oh
also?
yeah, yeah. Okay. So there's also an example of this. You know, when you start listening and the parents making the video and the title, they tell you the guy touches you, you get pregnant. Just one touch, you get pregnant. And then they have their classmates shake them and they don't get they used to hugging them. I didn't see them pregnant, we're kissing them. I did not get pregnant now. Like it just makes them want to know bottom line of okay, let me try this now. Okay, even someone touches their body or let's be like, how about it's not pregnant now? I'm enjoying it. They try something else till they now get to the peak and truly pregnant. So we need to like make them understand that it's not like you cannot have a sexual relation, like you cannot have the opposite sex as your friend. All cannot embrace each other. This is actually this. And this is the consequences of doing this. And you do not have to let it get to this because once you get to this, you will not be able to resist. Once you get to this, you will not be able to resist. We need to like separate it. We should stop using these tricks of saying this just to instill fear. Not even to this generation of today, they don't fear it. They want to try what you say. They want to know if it is true or not. They want to hear what you have to say. So I don't it is really, really a wrong idea for somebody like me. Because I remember then there was one of my classmates that I think private side menstruated but in school, then came back to school. Then there was a conversation, then one of her teachers like touched her, she was crying. Even a teacher now, I'd probably held her hand or something, and she was crying. And I had to ask her, why are you crying? She was like, I cannot tell you I'm in trouble, I'm this, I'm that. What's happening? What can you not say? Like, what can it be an issue? And she was like, when I went home, I got my period for the first time, and my mom told me that if anybody touches me, I'll get pregnant, and blah, blah, blah. Mr. So touched me, and I'm so scared I'm going to get pregnant now. Nah, nah, nah. It is like really the wrong thing to do. And the moment you start saying this to your children, they will even be so scared to tell you things. Like it drifts children apart. Like it draws a line between the parent, and the children. Instead of that, okay, oh, this child has started a menstruation. Give them appropriate education. If I tell you that most parents, I can say for Gina, doesn't even know how to calculate the period cycle. Not to talk of teaching their children how to calculate the period cycle. When a child gets a menstruation, teach them the hygiene, teach them the safety, tell them that this is it. You're not releasing an egg, you're now becoming a woman. If you do these certain things, you get pregnant. Not saying touching, you have to desist from this, you have to desist from that. Teach the ideas of menstruation, teach them what the changes that has happened in their body. Things that now that your body has changed, these are the things you would face. Teach them to be observant of their body. Oh, mommy, I got my menstruation. I got my menstruation this. I felt a tenderness in my breasts. Last month, I did not. I figured it was still like teach them to be so observant of their body, so they'll be so curious of what is happening inside of them, not the old facade of if a man touches you, you get pregnant. That's not the education they need. Like it comes in section. So, no. So I really, really agree with what she says. All those statements to create fear. Now it doesn't create fear, it gets things worse. See my own perspective. Let them know what they truly need to know at that point in time. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I
The
have to
funny
say.
thing is,
Thank you.
parents, I think you should be aware right now that from primary five, I think children are being taught reproductive health system. So the idea of if it touches you isn't working
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
Go and update your books, parents.
Mm-mm.
So our next
That's it.
question is, Miriam, how can fear-based or shame-based sex education backfire in the long run?
Okay, fear can backfire in so many ways, and this also comes back to introducing things to children in the right way. One thing that parents need to understand is that they cannot kill curiosity. Children would always be curious and they would always want to explore. Once they understand that, it's their job to just guide that curiosity and that exploration. But if you try to instill fear in them, don't forget that we learn from every single aspect of our environment. Children go to school, they talk to their peers, they have peers in the neighborhood, they have friends in the neighborhood, etc. But let's say that a child has been told from childhood that if a guy just touches you at your back or just touches you, you are going to get pregnant. And then let's say she has a crush in GS1, and then her friends are encouraging her to hug him, hug him, hug him. And then she just hugs him one day and then she sees that I'm not pregnant. And then she now realizes that, oh, maybe she has been lied to. That a chain of curiosity and exploration is going to start from that. Because she's going to say, okay, mommy told me that if he touches me, I'm going to get pregnant. Touch me today, I did not get pregnant now. Next, she's going to want to kiss him. Next, she's going to want to have sex. And this is because she was not told the truth from start. She had to start learning those things on her own. And when children, because there's always a mental leash that parents put on us when they instill fear in us, so that they've already tied us down. Once you get to that point where you're able to loosen that leash on your own, you just go wild. Like you just start to do anything because that leash is no longer there. So once they get to that point where they're like, oh, so all these things that you people have been making me scared of is even a myth. It's not even a fact. It's false. They start to over explore. You just go and do whatever they want. And in the long run, we need to let children understand that there are limits to exploration. This is not because of what society says. This is because it's for your own good. Here are the bad consequences of what could happen if you explore too early or if you explore with the wrong people. But then if we do not have these conversations properly with our children and we just instill fear in them, they're just scared of this, it's going to backfire. Because when they start to learn on their
Yeah.
own, there is no stopping them anymore.
Melumi, on to you.
Yeah. So, when you tend to learn things on your own, you tend to make more mistakes. So, to avoid those mistakes, you make them learn from your own experience and knowledge that you have. So, don't debunk what it is for what it's not. Tell them what it is and the consequences at which they would face. Because even if you're not telling them the truth, remember, we are now in the world of social media. They see so many things on there. And social media doesn't plainly tell you the truth. It's just full of people with different ideology and that will come on there to say what they feel it is right. That's why they say you have to have your own culture. So your culture and want there's nothing she wants to hear outside. There's nothing they can use to lure her. They'll be like, my mom told me, I already have information about all of this. It is a lie. Like, even when I say, do you know Kini Koko? It's so nice to do that. Be like, but my mommy told me that if I hug him now, I did not hug him. Like, it just makes them want to do more because they believe the relationship and the knowledge they have about that was based on lie. They will now keep wanting to know the truth about it, and it keeps getting deeper. So yeah, that's what I just need to let them know what it is at the right time.
Thank you very much. So, Miriam, hope you are still
You're
with
welcome.
us.
I'm
Okay.
here.
So how can parents keep the conversation going as their child grows rather than a time conversation?
Okay, so one thing that parents can do is try to ask them questions. Now, I'm not saying interrogate them, because there's a difference between asking your child a question because you genuinely are just interested in their life, and interrogating them because you want to catch them doing something bad. There's a big difference. But if a mother comes and says, "You come here, who did you talk to in school today? Who is that boy that you hugged?" That child would naturally be secluded. She'll be secluded. She don't want to speak up. She don't want to talk about her experiences. And one thing that parents also need to understand is you should always be the first safe space for your child. Before your child thinks of talking to a friend or talking to a teacher or talking to a sister, the very first thing to
You
come to
have to
their
speak
mind is,
to
"I'll
you
talk to my
first.
mommy or my daddy about this," because they already see that you are that safe space. You are that person that will make them feel safe about whatever they want to say. So naturally asking your child about, "Oh, how was school today? How was class today? What did you talk to with your friends today?" When they start talking, you can immediately start picking up cues from what they say. So you can even ask that, "Oh, so Vanessa said something about your breast. What did she say?" Then from there, you now start easing into the conversation. But then when you start teaching sex like morning devotion, and after they have to sit down every day and be like, "Oh yeah, what did you do yesterday with your breast?" It's become something that child start anticipating in fear, like, "Oh God, hey, today is sex talk. What will she ask me? What will I say? What will she beat me?" But then if sex talk is something that they actually look forward to, like, "Oh, every Friday, me and my mom we talk about this. That thing that Vanessa told me in school yesterday, I'm going to go and tell her today. I'm sure my mom is going to tell me the truth about it." Then you can always keep the conversation going. And sex will not be something that is such a taboo that we should not talk about. It's something that they will immediately talk about, like, "Oh mom, today I wanted to hug this boy, but it felt weird to me because I've never felt like hugging anybody before. What could that mean?" It is easy for you people to talk about that than for us to now say, "Oh mom, there's this boy in my class, Isaac," and then you're like, "Who is Isaac? Tell me, who is Isaac? I'm going to be that." And then she's like, "Okay, what exactly is going on?" So the very first thing is to make it a safe space. Make sure that you are the first point of contact for your child whenever your child asks questions, because they will always have questions. The more they see, the more they hear, that's the more they learn, and that's the more they will want to know more about that topic. They would always have questions. So make sure that you are the first person that your child is coming to with a question, and always make sure that you answer in a safe and healthy manner for that child, so that it does not seem like something that the child will always be anticipating with fear, but rather they anticipate it with happiness and with genuine curiosity.
Sandy, may on to you.
Okay, I would start with an example, exactly what you said. When I went to boarding school, then I have a friend, or really close, the opposite sex. It was a Muslim, it was an Hafiz. Then every morning he's going to send a message to me exactly 6 o'clock and call me. You have to stop and pray. So he dropped a message. He could not reach me. Then he dropped a message. "Oh, it's time for Fajri. Make sure you pray your Tajud. And it's time for Fajri and do your something. Okay, talk to you and have a nice day." You now put the word dear, dear. So then my mommy was the first person to see the message. She escalated it, called him, said he wanted to talk to his parents, called my principal at school. It was during an holiday. And that was the bridge for me in talking to my mom, like about things like that. I even want to just say about my friends. That was the highlights, like that was the line. Because I felt embarrassed because even after going to school, principal calling you and this, like I couldn't feel like what's there, because literally I was very innocent. Did you get, there was a better way she could have handled the situation, even if she felt that okay, I think this guy's intention is not pure towards my daughter. But what he was doing at that moment was waking me up for Fajri. I didn't see it as anything, which was a good thing. But the fact that she saw the word that ended it, dear, 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 like calling the principal and me resuming to school, having to face the principal, like things like that. It was really, really embarrassing. I didn't even talk to this person again till I finished school. We could not talk again because I felt like my parents calling him felt embarrassing. It was like bruising my ego as a teenager and all of that. So there are so many ways you can have a conversation if you engage in fun activities with your child. That's why you need family time. Probably you have Sundays that okay, we play game, we do this. These are when you can chip in this conversation and you would know their head and their thoughts and know the next thing to do. Keep it. It doesn't have to be something that balls them that oh they know that if mommy wake you in the midnight, I want to sleep or she don't be saying all this thing. To make them not, they would not want to have this conversation with me. It has to be in a, you have to do it in a way whereby they are always eager to look up to the next time that oh we'll do activities, we are doing this, then you know their mind and all. It has to be something fun and enjoyable to them. You have to feel very comfortable having this conversation with you. That's how it becomes. Because trust me, till your child gets older, even older till they're entering the marriage age, you have to keep having this conversation. This conversation is a lifetime thing because new things keep happening, your body changes, a lot of things happen with their humans, a lot of things happen. So before they confide in a friend, they have to like their parents has to be like their go-to person first. They have to understand that oh, my mommy first. She will listen to me. She doesn't judge me. People go with people that don't judge them. So you have to correct them and having conversation with them, not like you are judging them, but you're putting them through. Like, oh, this is how I did. Like this friend, that's where you say best friend kind of thing. Parenting and best friend. If you can go hand in hand in cahoots, it's like best approach. But you have to be careful. You have to be very, very careful because don't blow out the word parenting because you're being a child's best friend. So yeah, that's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parents, I believe we should be able to communicate properly with our children. I think the whole issue boils
Yeah.
down to our method of communication. Once parents are able to pass the message without fear or shame, I guess the message reaches its audience rather than trying to sex shame
Mhm.
or even see this issue. I think we need to
Body
be
shame.
emphasizing more. Like it's not actually making sense. Parents should be very, 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 very conversant with their child's well-being because right now we have a trending issue of say no to child marriage, this and that. A parent that is a victim of child marriage, how do you expect that kind of parent to also stand against it when she doesn't see it as wrong? So, in this case of sex, parents are terming it as something wrong, forgetting the fact that it is a biological issue. Because as soon as a child, because from what I say, as soon as a child becomes 10 years
I
old,
did it.
the hormones start to rise. Instead of cautioning your children, okay, do this, do that, do this, you start projecting fear on them, making them scared. And even if the child brings the conversation to you, you start downplaying his opinion. Parents should take note of that. So, on this note, I would like to have a final word from our speakers because our speakers have other engagements and we don't want to hold them down. So, Miriam, please, can you please give us your final word?
Could you please repeat that?
Like, can you please give us a final closing statement from your end?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for having me. So, in conclusion, I just want to emphasize on parents being a safe space for their children, parents understanding the several developmental stages that their children are going through, and parents also understanding that their children would always be curious. And that curiosity might not even stem from external experiences, it might just stem from an internal curiosity of wanting to understand the world. And how a parent reacts, don't forget that first impressions go a long way. How you react to a new topic the first time shapes
Yeah.
how your child sees that topic in general. So we always have to be careful when our children come to us with new and delicate topics. We need to be careful of how we react to them and how we impact knowledge on them. And I also want to add another tip that it's not necessarily related to this, but I want to encourage parents to read more books on parenting. There are so many things that go on in our child's mind and our child know that we do not even know that our children know. But when we understand the length of what our children can understand and take, it helps us also shape how we talk to them and we converse with them. Imagine a child that already understands sex as in sexual intercourse, you are still telling that child that their vagina is cookie. At home, the child will understand enough to call it cookie for you, but when they get to school, they know what to call it to their friends to seem cool and let them understand that yes, I know what sex is. So we need to always be that first point of safe space for our children. That should be our priority. Thank you so much.
Miss Pelumi, a final word for me, please.
Ma, thank you so much for thank you so much for having me, and sorry for the whole troubleshooting is the network. So I just advise that we have good bond and good communication with our parents, and within parents and children, they should have a good bond and communication, and try to understand our children. And like, yeah, like I said, it sets boundaries. So it still leads down to communication. Just creating a safe space within yourself with your children. Once there's a safe space and you have good communication skills, everything will come gradually. Yeah, so creating a safe space and understanding that the way we were brought up and how things were when we were brought up is totally different from the generation. So we need to learn to evolve with the children. So that's what I have to say. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our speakers and our
Definitely.
organizers. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your coming. Thank you very much. And our viewers, thank you very much. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our page. Thank you. Bye.